life processes. For us, for all the living organisms, may it be plants, may it be you and me, the processes respiration, nutrition, the circulation, excretion, these are the steps, processes, and the most vital processes necessary for us to survive, for the living beings to survive, and these are known as life processes. So there are two modes, or two most common type of nutrition modes. One is autotrophic, the other is heterotrophic. Autotrophic and heterotrophic. So what is this autotrophic? So autotrophic means making food by ourselves, themselves, like plant make their food by themselves. What is heterotrophic? We eat plant, we or the animals eat plant, they don't make their own food. So autotrophic, auto means self. This is a type of nutrition in which the inorganic materials like the CO2, this is used to synthesize the organic food, and the process is known as photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is being employed by the plants in order to make their food, to make carbohydrate. Green plants, they use this autotrophic mode of nutrition, and organisms which use autotrophic mode of nutrition, they are known as autotrophs. What are they called? Autotrophs. Now the question is, how this autotrophic nutrition actually takes place or occurs in plant, and how do they use photosynthesis? For photosynthesis to take place, carbon dioxide, water, sunlight, chlorophyll, these all are required as the ingredient, as the raw material. So sunlight provides energy, chlorophyll absorbs this sunlight, then carbon dioxide is reduced to carbohydrates, and the water is oxidized in order to release the oxygen. So water is taken up from the soil through the roots, or it can be taken from outside moisture. And the chloroplast, this is the site where the photosynthesis actually occurs, and this contain green color pigment. The leaves especially, they have chlorophyll, and chlorophyll is responsible for trapping the sunlight, the energy for photosynthesis. So in all, what are the steps of photosynthesis? First is absorption of light by the chlorophyll, then conversion of this light energy into chemical energy, then splitting of this water into hydrogen and oxygen, and finally the reduction of this CO2 to carbohydrates, which is the food. Leaves have something called as stomata. They have small openings. Leaves have small openings known as stomata, and this is responsible for the exchange of gases. Stomata, somewhere you will also find out stoma. This is surrounded by guard cells. These are the guard cells. See, these are the guard cells which guard the opening, because this is the stomata aperture and this is the inner wall. So these two guards the opening and closing of stomata, and guard cells also contain the chloroplast. So what is the overall equation governing the photosynthesis, or how we can define photosynthesis in one equation? Carbon dioxide CO2 combines with water H2O in the presence of sunlight, and with the help of chlorophyll it gives you sugar and oxygen, and this oxygen we breathe, animal breathe. Heterotrophic nutrition. In this type of or mode of nutrition, the organisms, they do not synthesize their own food. They do not make their own food like the plants, like the autotrophs, but in fact they are dependent on the autotroph for their food. There are certain types like holozoic nutrition, saprophytic nutrition, and parasitic nutrition. In this holozoic nutrition, this kind of nutrition where organisms, they take whole food and they break it inside the body, that is, they take complete food, and then the breaking of the food is done inside their body. For example, amoeba does that. Saprophytic nutrition is a nutrition where organisms feed on those matter which are decaying, which are dead, which have lived their life. For example, fungi, they do that. Parasitic nutrition means one living being living on other living being, like Excreta. This is a nutrition in which the organism feed on the living host. One organism is living on the other living being. How does nutrition in human beings takes place? All starts here. This is our mouth. We take food, we intake food, and then after all things happening inside, it's a marvel. This is a marvel inside our body which God has given us. Finally, the anus is the place where the excreta comes out, latrines comes out. So the part of alimentary canal is like that. It starts all with the mouth. This is the mouth. Then we have pharynx. This followed by the esophagus, or we also call it as a food pipe, and it goes inside, or it connects us to the stomach. This is a stomach. Now this stomach, after that, the food is, there are hydrochloric acid, other things, also pepsin, etc. The food is broken down, and now it passes to the small intestine. This is the small intestine. Here all the juices are being taken from liver, from pancreas, and the food is actually digested in the smaller intestine. The undigested is given to large intestine, and this largest intestine sends it to the rectum, and this is the place after which the anus, the food, undigested food, or you can say the waste of the food comes out. This is how nutrition is happening in human beings. Mouth is the first and most important part of our body, and this is the first portion of the alimentary canal. So mouth consists of what? We have tongue for the taste, we have teeth in order to chew food, then inside this we have oral cavity. So this is our lip, this is our tongue, these are the tonsils, this is called as uvula. Then we have the soft palate and hard palate as well, and then the gums which holds this teeth. These are human mouth parts. So how does the digestion takes place in a human body? Or most of the organisms, they also follow the same criteria, but how does digestion takes place in human beings? First, we eat food. Food digestion starts right from the mouth. The food is very complex in nature. We eat different variety of food. So the mouth, here actually things starts. So for breaking the food, and in order to absorb that food, we need some catalyst, and these are called biological catalyst or enzymes. Mouth has salivary glands, and they secrete saliva. This contains the important enzyme. These are known as salivary enzymes, and that breaks down the starch into simple sugars. Most of the food contains starch. We need to break it down to simple sugars. And the food then goes via esophagus into our stomach. The movement, how does this movement happen? Because we are not doing actual work there. And this is all happening because of the rhythmic contraction of muscles, and this is known as peristalsis. This is the rhythmic contraction of muscles inside our esophagus, inside our intestine, etc. So stomach contains the gastric glands, and which secretes many things like the mucus, like the HCl, hydrochloric acid, and this is quite concentrated. Pepsin. Now this pepsin is a protein for this is a protein digesting enzyme. So this pepsin is used to digest the protein. After the stomach, food goes to small intestine. This small intestine, if you see in herbivores, it's quite large because there is cellulose digestion happening as compared to carnivores. They are digesting meat. Then after complete digestion of carbohydrates and the proteins and the fats, that is the basic things which are being taken out from the food, this occurs in small intestine. Now small intestine needs some support, and this support comes from the pancreas and the liver. This pancreas, the secretion from pancreas and bile from the liver. And what does this bile does? It helps in emulsification of the fats. While the pancreas, it secretes enzymes like the trypsin, and this is again for some protein digestion as well. We have intestine wall. These are also called glands that secrete the intestinal juice as well. All these juices are required to actually digest our food. Now small intestine has villi. Now what it does, it increases the surface area for the absorption of food, and this unabsorbed food is now then transferred to the large intestine where the water is absorbed. The undigested food is then expelled out from the anus. Here everything is taking place. First it goes inside mouth, then esophagus, then stomach. Here hydrochloric acid, mucus, etc. Pepsin is there. Then after that it goes to small intestine. Here small intestine takes help from liver like bile and the pancreas. After this intestine also gives some intestinal juice. After this, when the food, that the carbohydrate, fat and protein has been taken out, it is sent to the larger intestine. After that the food come out, that is the undigested food comes out of the anus as a excreta. So these are the steps or mechanisms of digestion of food. Respiration. What is respiration? This is a metabolic process and which involves breakdown of food in order to release energy, and this is respiration. So see, we have glucose and this is in cytoplasm, say. Now what happens is a pyruvate is being made. A pyruvate is the content which is 3 carbon molecule, and the energy is produced. Here we have glucose. Now it can go, or the respiration can takes place in absence of oxygen, in presence of oxygen, or lack of oxygen. These are 3 things which can happen. So this pyruvate, the breakdown of pyruvate into ethanol, this one, ethanol and carbon dioxide in the absence of oxygen is known as fermentation. And this process occurs in the absence of oxygen. That is why it is called as anaerobic respiration. Please understand, absence of oxygen, respiration is known as anaerobic respiration. When this pyruvate is broken down into carbon dioxide and the water in the presence of oxygen, This is known as aerobic respiration. So the energy being released is in this process is used up to synthesize the ATPs. This ATPs is nothing but adenosine triphosphate. If you compare to animal, the plants use stomata to exchange carbon dioxide and oxygen, and the exchange occurs through the process called diffusion. This is the respiration in human beings. Now it starts with the nostril. Human respiratory system starts with nostril, then the nasal cavity, pharynx, trachea, bronchi, bronchioles, and then lungs. Lungs is the basic part or the organ of the body where you can say actual respiration takes place. So what in lungs happen? There are alveoli, these are present, and here the exchange between oxygen and carbon dioxide takes place, alveoli. So if you want to find out the passage of air in human beings, we get oxygen from oxygen rich air from environment. It goes to our nasal cavity, then pharynx, then trachea, then bronchi, then bronchioles, then alveoli. And after that, in lungs, the oxygen and carbon dioxide exchange is done at alveoli. Now the reverse step takes place, or reverse passage takes place. It goes to bronchioles, bronchi, trachea, pharynx, nasal cavity, and then it comes out from the nostril. That means bronchioles, bronchi, trachea, pharynx, nasal activity, and then we release carbon dioxide to the environment. We have a very important respiratory pigment in our blood. This is known as hemoglobin, and this is responsible for carrying the oxygen to various parts of the body and also to remove the carbon dioxide from the body. If you compare it with oxygen, carbon dioxide is more soluble in water, so it is usually transported in dissolved form. Transportation, how does it take place in human being? See, blood is a fluid connective tissue that transports this food, oxygen, carbon dioxide, nitrogenous waste. Who is doing all this? Blood. Blood is doing this. So blood contains plasma, blood cells. This RBC, red blood cell, they carry oxygen throughout the body. And heart is the pumping organ in the body. Right from when you are an embryo in your mother's womb till you die, there is one thing which is always beating, which is your heart. So heart has 4 chambers. In human being, they are 4 chambered. These are 2 atriums, left and right atrium. Then we have 2 ventricles, left ventricle, right ventricle. So the left atrium here, it receives the oxygen rich blood from the lungs. While it is receiving the blood, it is relaxing. Then we have left ventricle. Left ventricle pumps oxygen rich blood throughout the body. This is the work of left ventricle. Then the deoxygenated blood, because the blood will come, the oxygen will be used in the body, then we have deoxygenated blood. This deoxygenated blood comes from the body to the upper right atrium like here, and it contracts to pump the blood to right ventricle. This right ventricle, it pumps the blood to the lungs because now it needs to be oxygenated. If you take example of fish, they have 2-chambered heart. Amphibians and reptiles, they have 3-chambered heart. Crocodile, because it is a reptile, but still it has 4-chambered heart. If you talk about birds and mammals, they have 4-chambered heart. There is double circulation also. The left and right side of the heart, they needs to be separated, and they are separated in order to prevent mixing of the oxygenated blood and deoxygenated blood. So in vertebrates, blood goes through heart twice in one cycle. This is known as double circulation. And the force that force that the blood exerts against the wall of the vessel. This is known as BP, or blood pressure. So pressure of blood inside the artery during ventricular contraction is known as systolic pressure, while the pressure in the artery due to ventricular relaxation is known as diastolic pressure. Diastolic pressure. The normal blood pressure of human body is 120/80, higher side, lower side of Hg, mercury. Artery, capillary and vein. Artery, they carry blood. If this is your heart, so artery carry blood away from the heart. This is artery. Vein, they carry blood towards the heart. So they carry blood towards the heart. So this is vein. While the capillary, they are one cell thick smallest vessels. Since it is taking away from the heart the blood, they carry oxygenated blood except the pulmonary artery. While the blood is coming into the heart, they carry deoxygenated blood except pulmonary vein. And capillary help in exchange of material between blood and surrounding cells. We talk about artery, they have thick walls, do not have walls. Vein, they have thin walls, also they possess walls. Capillary, they do not have any walls. So in blood we have seen platelets. Platelets in blood, they are extremely important for blood clotting. That is, if you have a scar sometime or a wound, the blood would come out. How to stop it? Platelets would stop it. Then lymph, this is also known as interstitial fluid. This is a fluid that leak out from the pores of the capillaries, How does transportation in plants takes place? Plant has two things. One is xylem, the other is phloem. So the plant has xylem for water, transportation of water, and transportation of food, phloem does. So xylem for water transportation, phloem for food transportation. So xylem transport water from where? From the roots to different parts of the plants. Xylem tissue consists of vessels and tracheids. There is a loss of water because these are leaves, sunlight is falling over it. So loss of water in the form of water vapor from the aerial parts of the plants like these is known as transpiration. The transpiration creates a suction which pulls the water up to the higher plant. So if there is a transpiration, there is automatic, you can say the roots takes the water or sucks the water from the soil and it gives back where the transpiration has taken place. In the similar manner, the transport of food in plants is done by phloem. So it transports food from leaves now to different other parts of the plant. Excretion, especially the urine formation. So we have kidney here, then we have these bladder, ureter. So the process involved in removal of nitrogenous waste from body is known as excretion. The excretion system of human body, especially for the urine, is kidney, pair of ureters, urinary bladder and urethra. The basic filtration starts in kidney and we have some filtration units here which are known as nephrons. These nephrons are the structural and functional unit of this kidneys. We have two kidneys. Human body has two kidneys. The other organisms have the same thing. So they consist of Bowman capsules and renal tubule. And for the formation of this urine, certain substances like the glucose, amino acids, they are selectively reabsorbed till the time actual waste is being produced. So the amount of water reabsorbed, it's totally dependent on how much water you have or the living organism has drank, or how much water is present in the body, then the urinary bladder is that point or that organ that is a muscular structure, and it is giving signal to the brain that okay, my content are full, now I need to urinate. And how does plant excrete waste? They do it the water through transpiration, and for excretion of waste, that is solid one, we see that plant do it by gums and resins. These are the excreta of plants.